Resident Evil Remake, one of the most beloved games in the series, considered by many to be a flawless remake of a game that was equally groundbreaking in its own right. So join me on a chilling adventure through the Spencer Mansion as we explore the plot, the fundamentals of survival horror, and what exactly makes this a game worthy of being called the perfect remake. The only Resident Evil games I've played in the past were RE4 and 5. While I thoroughly enjoyed Leon's adventure in Europe, RE5's convoluted plot, boring characters, and game mechanics that couldn't decide what type of game it was trying to be left a bad taste in my mouth, so I never touched another RE title. The last few entries caught my attention. The switch to first person seemed like a perfect fit, and the remakes of 2 and 3 looked damn gorgeous if nothing else. On top of that, these games have played a monumental role in defining multiple genres and found a way to stay relevant in the industry for over 20 years. So as a hardcore gamer, I decided it was time I gave them a fair shot. Then, out of nowhere, as if Capcom had sensed my curiosity, they blessed me with a massive sale on Steam, and I ended up buying every single mainline entry that was available. So in case you were wondering what I've been doing for the past 2 months, I'm gonna stay more consistent from now on, and that's a promise.
Hey, you know that I always keep my promises.
Anyway, here's a list of all the games I've played and will do a video on, but there are a dozen spin-offs that I didn't play. Also, for the first 3 games, I went with the remakes rather than the PS1 originals. Some people might not appreciate that, but it is what it is. I might do a video on the original trilogy too, we'll see. We'll end the series by ranking the games from worst to best, so subscribe to the channel to catch every episode. There's no shortage of videos from long-time knowledgeable RE fans breaking down every aspect of these games and providing you with high-quality, informative content, but I bring you something different. I'm gonna try and give you the complete, well, almost complete RE experience on YouTube from the perspective of a total newbie who just lost his survival horror virginity. So sit back and enjoy the first episode of Project Biohazard. It all began on the night of July 24th, 1998. A special forces unit known as STARS of the RPD is sent out to investigate a series of bizarre, cannibalistic homicides that have been reported from that area. The Bravo team sent out the night before has ceased all radio contact, so as part of the Alpha team, we're tasked with investigating their disappearance along with completing the mission. In close vicinity of the mansion, we discover Bravo team's crashed helicopter together with a deceased pilot. The rest of the team, however, is nowhere to be found. Suddenly, a pack of Cerberus dogs ambush our team and one of our guys gets viciously torn apart. It's too late to save him and the dogs are still hungry, so the rest of the crew is forced to flee. Alpha Team's pilot Brad Vickers takes off and the 4 remaining members make a hasty escape into the Spencer Mansion. Now that's a hell of a way to start things off. I'm immediately intrigued. The intro sets the mood perfectly. It's creepy and mysterious, with a slight touch of that 90s cheesiness. We get a nice taste of what to expect going forth. The remaining STARS members are Barry Burton, the team leader Albert Wesker, and the 2 protagonists that you can choose between to play as, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. For my first playthrough I went with Jill because she's got 2 extra inventory slots, and believe me, that makes a huge difference in a game like this. She also gets a lockpick allowing her to open certain doors, whereas Chris will need to find small disposable keys at the cost of inventory slots.
You son of a bitch!
Chris's advantages are that he'll always carry a lighter on him, and he can both take and deal out more damage than Jill.
Is that like a personal attack or something? Or...
So the choice of your character really depends on your playstyle. Anyway, regardless of who you pick, the overall plot doesn't change much. Certain decisions will slightly impact the direction of the story and the ending, but we'll get to that later. I would assume that the canon story is a mixture of both of their runs, because I doubt that either one of them just sat in a cell for the vast majority of the game's events.
Hello, darkness.
After arriving at the estate, the group splits up to search the mansion, and we are first tasked with investigating a gunshot near the dining room. We find the first member of the Bravo team being eaten by a mutated cannibal, also known as a zombie. We get this iconic shot of the zombie, and from there on it's time to slowly unravel the mystery of what the hell is going on in this place.
Let me take care of it!
As you no doubt have noticed by now, the game looks absolutely incredible, especially for a 2002 title. Of course, I'm playing the HD remaster for the PC, so it does look quite a lot sharper and cleaner than the GameCube original, but even at a lower resolution it was still one of the best looking titles of its time. This was achieved mainly with the use of high-quality pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed camera angles, which allowed the developers to put more resources into developing highly detailed 3D character models and items. It goes without saying that the models look spectacular for its time, and every single item is meticulously detailed and can be examined from up close in glorious 3D. The lighting, shadows, and reflections seamlessly blend into the environment, and all of this resulted in a stunning looking game. I mean, just look at this.
Oh my gosh, just look at it!
I don't recall many games, if any, looked this good from that era. I enjoyed the soundtrack as well. It set the mood for tense and unnerving situations and did so equally well for times when you can relax and take a breath. Like the art in the backgrounds, the music told a story. The fixed camera angles might not sound that great to you though, as it is a way of playing that has been largely abandoned since then. But I think in addition to the impressive visuals, it adds a whole lot to the horror angle of the game. Entering a new room and hearing the unsettling moans of a zombie without a direct visual of where they might be or how many of them are ahead just really works in a survival horror game. So, what is survival horror exactly? Well, that's not an easy question to answer, and I found that there's a never-ending debate among gamers on what exactly the term entails. No matter how you define it, nobody will deny that this is a true survival horror game. After all, the original Resident Evil was the first game to coin the term, and this is a very faithful remake. So let's do a quick breakdown of the game's mechanics and establish a checklist for what constitutes a survival horror title. You find yourself in a big, spooky mansion with various threats that you may need to either take out or avoid altogether. Enemies are usually hard to kill and pose a real threat to you. You can't go around killing everything as ammo and supplies are scarce, so you have to be strategic on what enemies you choose to engage with. It's actually possible to f*** yourself over by wasting too much ammo and coming unprepared into a boss battle, in which case you'll have no choice but to restart the entire game. Whether you're killing or maneuvering around your adversaries, you'll be doing so in a control system known as the tank controls. Basically, this means that you control movement relative to the in-game character rather than the perspective of the camera. So if you press up, you'll move in the direction that the character is facing, pressing down to move backwards, and the side buttons to rotate the character. A quick turn button was added in the remake, and a more modern scheme was introduced in the remastered version. Oh, and you can't walk and shoot, so when you aim and fire your weapon, you have to be standing in one place. As you can imagine, this style of gameplay adds an element of stress in combat situations. Exploration and puzzle solving is another big part of the game. You'll have to incrementally unlock sections of the map by exploring the environment for various keys and items that you will need to solve puzzles in progress. In fact, this is my favorite aspect of the game. I find the process of adding clues together and slowly unlocking and connecting the map super satisfying, especially when it's a map as brilliantly designed as this one. Seriously, the level design is top-notch and the entire map is neatly interconnected and believable as a real place. While you're out there exploring, searching, and scavenging, you'll also have to pay attention to your inventory slots, as you can't carry more than 6 or 8 items with Chris and Jill respectively.
Damn!
As such, you'll have to wager on what items you carry on your person and what to store in the magic item box for later use. Item boxes can be found in safe rooms, along with typewriters that allow you to save your progress. Granted, you've got an ink ribbon. If you happen to die before you've had a chance to save or because you're missing an ink ribbon, too bad, you're starting all the way from your last save. No checkpoints here, buddy.
Shit.
So as you can tell, there are a lot of things you need to consider on your journey. You have to be strategic and careful with pretty much every action. You're running low on health and you got a green herb on you. Do you use it now and heal a small portion of your health? Or do you take the risk and push on with low health, limping around until you eventually find a red herb and mix the two to heal yourself fully? Do you kill the zombies here or save the ammo for later? Okay, so you chose to kill them. Are you burning the bodies so that they don't come back as Crimson Heads, a faster and deadlier mutated zombie? Or do you save the gasoline for later use, where it's perhaps more beneficial to clear out the area than here? It's all about careful planning and strategy. If you play recklessly, you'll have an infinitely tougher time in this world. That means explore the environment, every nook and cranny. Stack up on items, make use of the item box, and don't forget to save every now and then. It's honestly refreshing playing something that doesn't feel the need to treat you like a toddler and hold your hand throughout, like most games do these days. I'd love to know how you guys would define survival horror. Let's get a discussion going down in the comments below. Getting back to the plot, you soon find some members of Bravo team. Unfortunately, it is too late for them. One is found on a balcony just before turning, and the other is found poisoned by a giant mutant snake called Yawn, who, despite our attempts to save him, will die not too long after.
Richard! Chris, stop! No! Does it ever not hurt?
Bravo Team's medic Rebecca Chambers has managed to survive though. However, you will only meet her in Redfield's playthrough, where she will mainly assist you with medical aid. Jill, on the other hand, works with Barry Burton, who starts acting quite sus midway through the game, causing Jill to become suspicious of his motives. We advance further and discover that the mansion is part of a base operated by Umbrella Pharmaceuticals for viral research. Basically, shit hit the fan and the zombies and other mutants are the result of an escaped mutagenic virus which caused brain damage and radical hormonal changes in its victims, driving them into murderous, cannibalistic insanity. The plot unfolds through occasional cutscenes that sport some gloriously cringy voice acting, which naturally we have to talk about.
Shit.
I know the voice acting here is some Academy Award-winning level shit compared to how it was in the original.
Whoa! What is it?
What? Oh no!
But it's still really bad. And for some reason, I absolutely love it. I don't know, to me, story-wise, Resident Evil is a campy B-movie horror schlock, and there's an undeniable 90s charm to that.
If I'm lucky, I'll get to waste some monsters along the way.
I don't think it hurts the game in this particular case. It's quite enjoyable. Here's a little comparison between the two versions.
Wait, what is that?
My interpretation is off a little. Chris, may I practice for a while?
Oh, what was that?
My interpretation is off a little. Let me practice for a while.
Stop it. Wesker, you're pitiful.
Wesker, you've become senile.
As you can see, the remake is overall vastly better, but it went from the room level to something like The Happening.
What? No.
More of the plot and general lore can be uncovered by reading files scattered around the map. Taking the time to read these notes and memos will give you a much better understanding of what's going on both in the events of the game and the broader RE universe.
Jill.
Barry, I didn't mean to get you that excited.
Right. Anyway, you should read this.
Anyway, how is your sex work?
One of the things you'll learn more about is the unfortunate tale of the Trevor family, which is a part of the game that was cut from the original story but was thankfully restored in the remake. George, Jessica, and Lisa Trevor were abducted by Umbrella Pharmaceuticals in the 1960s and had experiments conducted on them for research on the progenitor virus. Lisa Trevor is still alive, albeit mad and horrendously mutated. She roams freely in the depths of the estate's darker corners. The encounters with Lisa and the entire sections outside the mansion where you stumble into her cabin in the woods was outstanding, not to mention visually stunning. It should be noted here that by this point, you will have learned of Dr. Oswald E. Spencer as well, one of the founders of Umbrella and whom the mansion was built for, an important character to remember going forth in this series. Continuing the journey, you will discover another building, used as a dormitory for the lab workers that has been wrecked by a massive mutant plant known as Plant 42. All of the workers have been killed by the plant, and in order to proceed, you'll have to venture to the basement below, where experiments were conducted on fish-based mutants. After the basement section and dealing with the giant plant, you reach the courtyards underground where you find the remaining member and captain of Bravo Team, Enrico Marini. Badly injured, he tells you of his suspicions that there is a traitor within STARS responsible for their casualties. Of course, he gets assassinated by somebody off-screen before he has a chance to reveal anything. Nearing the final act, you reach the laboratory where you learn more about the Epsilon strain of the T-virus, which itself is a series of engineered mutant strains of the progenitor virus. It's easy to get lost in all of the different viruses and strains in the RE lore, so I'll try to simplify this as much as I can. Essentially, the progenitor is an ancient virus, perhaps billions of years old, which was discovered in the 1960s. It's distinct in nature from all other viruses in its ability to reverse lysis in cells, allowing it to revive dead organisms. It can infect the cells of any organism, whether animal, fungal, plant, or bacterial. Since its discovery, Umbrella has carried out considerable research on the virus and has engineered a number of mutant strains, mainly for research on bioweapons. And that's where the T-virus comes into play. which was originally meant as a viral weapon capable of eradicating an entire target population. But that proved unsuccessful. Focus shifted on the mutating of organisms to serve as bioweapons. The Alpha strain produced the Neptune and the Web Spinner, which yielded some results. However, the lack of increase in intelligence rendered them useless as weapons on the battlefield, and they were discontinued. The Arklay team developed the Beta strain soon after, which was used in the Cerberus project, and a modified Beta 2 strain was used in the Hunter project. While these projects proved to be more successful, they were still unfit to serve as super soldiers, so the team went on to develop the Epsilon strain, which would mutate a human being into a powerful mutant with minimal brain damage. The virus leaked out during an accident, infecting the employees and allowing the bioweapons to escape. And that brings us back to the events of the game. After solving some puzzles and making it to the lower levels of the lab, we discovered that our captain Albert Wesker is a former member of Umbrella USA's lab team and is still working for them as a spy. He has lured the STARS members into the mansion under direct orders from Umbrella with the intent of proving the effectiveness of the BOWs in killing armed professionals. His orders also include destroying the labs along with any incriminating evidence and recovering embryonic clone samples of the BOWs. Barry, who's been acting sketchy as f throughout the game, is revealed to be working alongside Wesker under the threat of his family's murder.
Well, what do you know?
Wesker then reveals that he plans on betraying Umbrella upon the mission's completion, delivering the clone samples to a rival company. Not the most trustworthy guy, this guy. He awakens the latest product of the Epsilon strain, the T002 Tyrant, and gets fed with some good old-fashioned instant karma.
It was at this moment that he knew.
Subscribe to Neon Nova.
The laboratory's self-destruct system is activated and it's time for our heroes to
Get to the chopper!
where Brad Vickers is supposed to pick them up. We face off with the Tyrant in the final battle on the helipad, take him out with a rocket launcher. The game ends with the team flying away over the Arklay Mountains as the Spencer mansion blows apart into a million pieces. As I mentioned earlier, there are different endings depending on your character and choices throughout the game. The best ending is where all 4 STARS members survive and the mansion is destroyed. In the worst ending, the mansion stays intact and your character is the sole survivor. This game is widely regarded as one of the greatest remakes ever made, because it faithfully and respectfully recreates everything about the original, while adding a few new factors that only make the game even better. We've already touched on the graphics, but it's worth mentioning again that the difference is day and night. Artist Naoki Katakai, under supervision from director Shinji Mikami, produced the best pre-rendered backgrounds the series has ever seen. He was directed to make the environments evoke fear over beauty, and even though they butted heads occasionally over the art style, he eventually had to comply, and I'm glad he did, because it was a brilliant piece of direction that is clearly evident in the final result. It's pretty wild that just one console generation gap brought forth such enormous technological strides. That jump from 5th to 6th generation was actually insane. Mikami has said that the GameCube's technical capabilities allowed him to reach much closer to his original vision. Even the sound was all new. They really cut no corners, and you can feel that labor of love in the final product. Mikami was vocal in not wanting the same exact game with better graphics, so a number of other improvements were implemented. The changes to the gameplay were all clever and again, only improved the core experience. The quick turn is very useful and the addition of defensive weapons is appreciated. Defensive weapons allow you to fight back when grabbed by a zombie. This can include stabbing it in the head, shocking it with a taser, or sticking a grenade in its mouth. Never gets old. Character animations have also been vastly improved and the result is truly ahead of its time. I mean, how many games have you seen from 2002 where the character actually takes individual steps over a staircase? Restoring the Trevor family subplot, along with the graveyard in the cabin in the woods, were wise choices, as they are without a doubt complementary to the overall tone and were some of the creepiest parts of the game for me. Admittedly, the voice acting could have been better, but it's still a huge improvement over the laughably bad VO from the original. Like I said though, I actually don't mind the voice acting here because the characters and story isn't at the forefront of what makes this game great. It's not a deep character study and the story is just a neat, tight little package. This is before the writers started confusing themselves and went completely off the rails with all of the convoluted plot and lore. You'll see what I mean in the upcoming videos on later installments. It's a simple and effective story that's beautifully presented and unfolds in a satisfying way, so I can live with some cheesy dialogue.
Thanks.
Besides, there's something really charming about it.
Thanks.
There are more improvements and changes, like some revised puzzles and such, but we've covered the most significant ones. By now it should be obvious to you that this was not a shameless, soulless, sleazy, disgusting, uninspired pile of shit type of remake. It was made with care and respect for the original game and its fanbase. Every single ingredient of the original was meticulously recreated with passion and awareness of what made it so great. Shinji Mikami has said that the remake is about 70% different from the original. I'd say he and his team did a phenomenal job in producing a title worth being called the perfect remake. So yeah, it's safe to say I enjoyed my return to the series. I'm a huge fan of the early Silent Hill games, and playing this made me remember how much I miss these types of games. Games where you're not always sure what you have to do next, where you pick up an item and carry it without knowing what it's for, where you have to explore and examine your environment for clues, where the simple act of something like unlocking a door feels satisfying and rewarding because you earned it. In short, games where the developers have enough respect for you to figure it out for yourself. Resident Evil was one of the most riveting gaming experiences I've had in recent memory. The story, while filled with cliches and cheesy voice acting, still managed to be interesting and charming. The gameplay was tightly balanced and extremely polished. The setting of the Spencer Mansion and beyond was truly haunting and gorgeously designed. You know how every once in a while you run into a game that is just an absolute pleasure to play? This was one of those times for me. Resident Evil is survival horror at its finest, and deserves every bit of praise that it gets. Hey, if you had a good time here, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps me reach a wider audience. And if you're interested in more videos like this, subscribe. And thank you all for watching. I'm blown away by all of the support and love you guys have shown on my last few videos. It really means a lot, and I will be more active. I'm just still learning the ropes, so thanks for your patience. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.
No! Hey! No!